Hello, Dr. Bonk. This is Scott Teske, and I'm presenting on my Learning Environment final project, the Breakout Program Deep Dive, Building Knowledge and Resiliency. My project is based around my current role as a drug prevention educator. Every year, my supervisor and I carry out an 8-day drug education class that serves as a module in the health education curriculum of the school districts that we contract with. And this project is based on a deep dive format where the students will be introduced to the class format and the project guidelines, organized into groups, and then encouraged to meet those requirements the best way that they see fit. My instructional goals for this project are to serve as a final chapter and a capstone experience for our students, as most of them have participated in our program multiple times during their middle school years. I also aim to reinforce the knowledge that they've received in those previous courses and hopefully increase their chances of achieving positive life outcomes themselves through healthy choices and decision making. The target audience are high school students that generally take part in our program during their freshman or sophomore years. The instruction is designed for students that have previously participated and are going to be coming into the class with some prior knowledge. But I've also planned for accommodating first-time students, as this is something that I normally do as part of my yearly design process anyways. I've also floated the idea of using this format in our agency's at-risk youth intervention program, which is a program for first-time offenders, so I may have some additional learner characteristics to design for in the future. For my learning objectives, I wanted to keep them simple due to not having a lot of time to work with, so I decided to focus partially on my reasoning for wanting to modify the format of my instruction in the first place, which is to increase student engagement with the material. I also wanted to build or reinforce skills that the high school students generally use in other areas of their studies, so I decided a group project would help them hone those collaboration skills such as communication, problem solving, and critical thinking. My middle school instruction is largely instructor centered and supported by class activities. So with this project, I wanted to try reversing that and having a largely student driven instructional strategy that focuses on the students exploring a topic of their choosing and creating information that's relevant to their interests or life experiences, which could also help me improve the content of my other classes. To support the students over my 8 days, I'm going to provide them with access to my program's resource library, which is a collection of periodicals, peer reviewed studies, and a lot of drug related information that we get from the state of Michigan, as well as templates and examples of similar presentations that they could modify. I'll also be checking in with the groups as they go along to coach and offer any assistance that they might need. While I'll be using a rubric to grade each group's work as a whole and a survey to gauge student engagement, I like the idea of including a peer evaluation as well for students to be able to reflect on their experience and how individual contributions factor into group dynamics and performance. I also created a skills assessment to measure the students' individual confidence levels about their ability to perform in the different group related skill categories. I'm pretty happy with my learner and student analysis. I got more responses than I was intending or planning for, but I'm still working on a stakeholder analysis that I haven't been able to get feedback from yet. I chalk this up basically to it being kind of a busy time of the year. But for the analysis that I did get, created a survey for teachers and students as to what type of format changes they'd like to see in the high school curriculum and how I might change the types of activities in order to increase students' motivation. My inspiration for this project started last year when I was in a sixth grade science class and I was observing that class presenting on their passion projects, which they presented their findings on a topic of their choosing. Although I've utilized light group work in the past, I thought this format could be easily modified to fit my purposes with my high school curriculum. I've also enjoyed learning a lot about your R2D2 model, and I used it as somewhat of a framework where I would have students researching information, reflecting on what they want to present in their presentation, presenting that information, and then supporting it with an activity. The easiest step for me was designing the environment itself, as a group project was something that I've already been interested in, and I've had several examples to use as a guide. The most challenging part of the process for me was the assessment, which has always been a challenge for my program in general, largely because it's difficult for us to track and quantify the outcomes of our students, and more importantly, how much we can attribute our program to their success. Well, we generally have a great working relationship with our school districts, and there's a lot of community sentiment for us. Creating an evidence based assessment and results remains our biggest challenge. In developing the learning objectives, my main goal was to create objectives that would build on or create skills that would be of use beyond the scope of my class. Overall, I wanted to increase enthusiasm and motivation by letting the students guide their own learning and create information that's going to be helpful to themselves and their communities. Overall, I'm really excited to build on the progress that I've made thus far, and I'm going to be striving towards an initial implementation of the environment, hopefully in the spring. So that about wraps up my presentation. So thanks for listening and have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Bye bye.